Let's start adding our code for registry system. Now this will be more than one video and we will talk about everything that we are going to do and we will sit back and think with each other. This is not one of those tutorials that you will see happen in one go. This is more like an over shoulder thinking process, developing process of a developer's life. And I thought that this would be more beneficial for those people that are not professional and not very new to modding because, well, guess what? You can find basic knowledge almost everywhere. I will cover them as you progress forward more and more, but when you know the basic knowledge and you want to get something done, there is this gap between the basic knowledge and the finished product. And most of the time, the new mod developers don't know how to cover this gap. So adding things like the thinking process or a library development on the camera, like it's a live video, will help you understand more and more about a thought process of a mod developer. And that may help you a lot. So this will be more than one video for the register system, and we will have even more videos for the library, the fluid, the energy, inventory, and machina. And as we progress forward, you will understand Minecraft's API better and better. For the registry, now the very first type of the registry that we have is this, a mod item that only needs a name. Normally these mod items stack with 64 on top of each other, and they are just ingredients without any functionality, without any special class of themselves. They are just items, and that's it. They just need a name, a texture, a model, and an entry inside the registry. The other one that is very common is an item that is exactly like the previous one, however, they stack less than 64, maybe 16, or they don't stack at all. So these two, as you see, are one of the most useful cases all over this mod. As you see, all of these heads, rods, reinforced plates, alloys, gear, dust, cast, rows, gems, and many ones on top are just this. Either it's a simple item or simple with limited stacking number. So if I can handle these two cases, then yes, I have covered most of my use cases. However, beside these items, we have some items that have their own dedicated type. So we have to provide a way to solve that. Also, sometimes we want an item with a different settings. Sometimes we want a very dedicated item like swords, shovels, or even armors. So if I can simplify the process of registering all of these, that alone will help me a lot. And the same stuff can be said about the blocks. If I open mod blocks, we have lots of blocks, and all we are doing for these blocks are registering the block with another block. This is the name of this block. This one is a copy. So we are saying that, hey, copy the properties of this block for this one. For example, netherite should behave like netherite block, or carrot box should behave like oak planks. And because we are copying the settings from oak planks, means that immediately the carrot box will be broken by axe or by hand because it's a plank, you know. So this is the first use case. The next use case is when we have our dedicated class. And as I said, sometimes we want to provide our own settings. These are the most used cases of the blocks. For the blocks, I don't think I ever saw a block that is not stackable to 64. I don't remember. So I think doors maybe? Yeah. Anyway, long story short, if we covered these two items on block registry systems, we had done a lot. And that's what we will start. So in previous video, I showed you this funny class that had everything inside of itself with 10 subclasses. Take note, this is for the blocks, this is for the item registries. And I was not happy with that approach. Also, when I want to register things, for example, if I come to mod item groups, you see that I was using this get key from here. And the get key is using the mod ID. So it returns registry of the registry key and identifier of the name. It's not using the mod ID. And because I was moving everything inside everything, I thought that the mod ID was being used inside this get key method. And now I see that it is, because the get key is calling the identifier. Identifier is using the mod ID. So here's the thing. Can't I use something different? Because identifier, wait a minute, we have this method inside the reference. However, if I would want to have our reference library in here for the registry, then we have to somehow have an instance of our reference, and all we are using is this simple method. And that is why I decided that, you know what, this simple method is not worth having the complex relationship between libraries. So just add that method there. Okay, this looks like a very good entry point for everything. Now remember, we have some lists on top. When I was writing this library, I was thinking like, hey, if for whatever reason at some point in my mod development, I want to check if this item belongs to my mod or not, how should I do that? Well, guess what? We could get the domain name from the registry itself, and it will tell you that, hey, the domain is your mod ID or not. But stupidly enough, I thought, okay, why do that? I just have some lists. Whenever I'm registering something, I add it to my own list, and then I can check the list and see if it has this or that, and that would be it. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a doable approach. However, now I have this init method that makes the lists are not null, and then I had to have all these get methods to get the lists. That's not what I want to do. So my first class should be registry helper. So registry helper is responsible of handling anything that is not instantiable. For example, that get key method. Okay, let me show you the concept again. The get key should be usable as inline instantiation and not in a method like init. So at this point, we are not able to instantiate any other class. Of course, we can cut it, we can put it in a static block, and then yes, we can instantiate a class there. However, all we need is this mod ID. So just send in the mod ID, as simple as that. Let's see, let's do this. I will remove these, I will remove these, and then I don't need these, I don't need this constructor, I don't need the init, and the get list. Of course, we don't need any one of that. Stairs, everything, get all, and we get to even more. Okay, and region. Okay, so the first one is this get key. I want that inside my registry helper. Let's cut these two methods and paste them here and take a look. Ignore the Java doc. Let's talk about this section. So it's registry from netminecraft registry. Now registers.modid. This is not what I want. Here I will send in a string as mod ID, and here again I will receive that string as mod ID, and I will use that here. Boom. That being said, I will send the mod ID here too. So as simple as that, I will cover this use case because we are receiving a mod ID, then a name, and then the key. And if you take a note, we have the mod ID, the name, and then the key. So that's being said, we finished this one use case, and that's all we had to do for our get keys. And trust me, this plays a really critical role, especially when we go into data gen for things like the configured features or placed features. And because I did move these from the inline initialization inside the init method, and at that point I had the race condition, and that would be troublesome. However, now I can do inline initialization. I'm sending in the mod ID, so chances are that I'm golden now with just one method inside one class inside the library. Okay, now I could publish this to Maven. I could download it inside my main and check everything, but I have lots of things to cover. Now in mod item groups, that's the main issue. We don't have issues here because all these errors related to lack of dependencies for my other libraries that we need to develop. Basically, right now, our mod does not understand itself. And what is wrong with you? Well, remember, we did change our logger. So going to the main, we have some problem here. This is a change of the domain, so glogger, and this should fix this problem. Now, let's start at some point, either items or blocks or any other place. Actually, I think items will be easier. Now, previously, I had this static method calls on a helper class. However, now I want to instantiate my classes because I had experience with this system. And as you see, it's easy to instantiate a class on the main and then use these instances. These are singletons in the scope of this mod, not in the game. So at each mod, I will have only one logger with that mod ID. I will have only one reference with that mod ID. I will have only one config with that mod ID. But in a game, who knows? I may have 10 different instances of the logger with different mod IDs. So it's not really a singleton, but in the scope of a single mod, we will have one copy of each. And I think this is a better approach. So we need to add a class. Now, I will call it JItem register. JItem register. JItem or GItem? G. I will use G because then I can use J, I, and R as capital, and the IntelliSense will help me with the whole name. So GItem register, and this one will have a constructor. Now I will take a look at my reference and I will show you what I'm doing here. The JiReference has this mod ID string on top, okay? I will copy it because I am lazy and this way I get the constructor, the Java doc. Then I will have this accepting the mod ID and assigning the mod ID. Okay, enough copy paste. Now that I have the mod ID, in my main, I can have this, something like public static final. I will type it this way, JIR, and it would give me G item register. Then I will call it JRegister or something, item register, I'm not sure. And then new J item register with mod ID. So that's the whole idea here. Let me type it for you. So it will become public static final G item register, maybe item underline register, or J item, why not, equals to new G item register with the mod ID. That's the whole thing, okay? That's the process. Now, every time I'm using mod ID, I will say J item dot register. And of course, I need to have a public static import on top. So I will have one of these and I will change it to J item. And that would work. This is a better approach because at the start of the mod initialization, I'm already instantiating the J item. So I'm sure that this class will always have its mod ID assigned, so there is zero chance of having something that has null key. That's the whole point. Let's start with the simplest one, public static item. It returns an item and I will call it register. This one asks for a string and we call it name. This process should cover this use case. Okay, let's keep it that way. I will come back to that. The next one is the second use case. I have the same thing. This is an overload basically, but now I have int stack count, and I'm deliberately using meaningful names because if you look, sometimes the hints here will show the name. So it will show stack count 16. So it's better to have meaningful names. And then I have some more use cases, but let's skip the overloads and let's go to the main thing. So public static. Now, here is the thing. I will use generics. I will use an unknown type, but I will limit that unknown type to be an item. Okay. So basically I'm saying T is any type of item and I will return that type, not item. It's not like these. Here I'm dedicatedly saying that, hey, I'm only returning an item. But here I'm returning something like this. I will register the tuner item and the result will be a tuner item being assigned to tuner. This T extends item is exactly responsible of converting my registered item to the tuner item so that I can assign it to tuner with the type of tuner item. Little bit of generic explanation here. Okay, register. Now again, we use a string name, but here's the funny part. How would I know the type? Now I can say function. And as you see, function is something from Java util that accepts a type and a result. T means type, R means result. Okay, I will accept a function that accepts setting item dot settings and T, and we call it factory. Now, this may look confusing. Let's change these to R because these are results that being returned. Okay, now that is the type that we are sending in. We are sending in some type of setting and we want an item out of it. We call it a factory. Okay, time to get funny. Registry key of type item, and we call it key equals to. Now I will use my own helper. So registry helper, you see how I found it? I just typed R and H as capital. Dot get key. I have the mod ID here. So this dot mod ID, comma. The type is registry keys dot item. Now you may say, hey, it's yelling at me because the second param should be the name. And why are you? Oh, it's static. We don't need a static. That's the whole point. Okay, and these shouldn't be static because we are not making any helper. We are just working with an instantiable class. Okay, so we got the key. Now you see, I called my own helper method, and that's the beauty of it. So I will typecast an item with saying that the factory we have, please apply something to it. Now, the thing that we want to apply is a new settings dot registry key with the key we have. This is a new change in 1.21. That's it. And finally, we want to return the registry dot register, registries dot item. That's the type of the registry there. I have the key and I have the item and I will return it. And because we said that R or return type is any type of item, this works like charm because here we made sure that the factory is actually the type that we want. Now we can say return. Here's the funny part. We can call this dot register and we send in the name and we say item colon new. Now this may look confusing. This is the factory. All we are saying that, hey, call the const constructor on the item and use this registry key on it, register it, and return it. Now, this should not be redundant, or it is redundant anyway. Okay, for the stack count, we need a new overload because we don't have it yet. We say register. Now here we send in the name, the stack count, and then item, colon, new. As I said, we don't have this overload yet. Okay, that's not too hard. Just copy it, paste it. Remember, the second parameter is an integer called stack count. And as you see, this error is gone. After the registry key here, we want to say max count is the stack count. As simple as that, we return the registry again. So by having these methods right now, we fixed these two use cases. And as you see, that means that this whole section is gone. Now we have some things like register stack food. We will cover that. But again, this section is gone. And I'm fairly sure this whole section is gone. Let's move to the next overload. And that is when we want to add our own tooltips. Now, tooltips is a headache right now because before we had this append tooltip method and it would handle everything. But I think right now the whole append tooltip thing is changed, and it will change again in future because it became obsolete. And we have tooltip events, so we can't use append tooltip to override any item. So I will bypass that, and let me double check my notes. Okay, here's the thing. Sometimes we want to register something with the name and with the settings. So I will do this. I will say that, you know what, I have item.settings, and they call it settings, and I want to send in the name, the settings, and then the item factory. Of course, we don't have it yet. And I want the same overload for this guy. So I will have the stack count. Actually, do I want to have the stack count as separate thing? Because when we are sending in the settings, we can directly set the stack count. So this may look like overkill. Okay, now we need to write this overload. And actually, I will copy the first one. I will paste it again. And remember, before the factory, I'm asking for item.settings. We call it settings. Now, this may look confusing because we are still asking for settings and R. That is okay. This is the result of calling the constructor. Here, instead of calling the settings as a new thing, we simply replace it with settings. Settings.register key. That would be it. I will add the same stuff here. So I will have the item.settings for whatever reason settings. And after the stack count, I will send in the settings. Of course, I don't have it yet. Now this time I will choose this overload that had the stack count. I will paste it there, and right after the stack count, I have the item.settings, we call it settings, and instead of instantiating a new settings, we use our own settings, and that's it. Now let's see, I had this tool, register tool, and here is how I was using it. If I open any one of them, I would call register tool, send in the name, then the material, then the attack damage, the attack speed, and then the factory. Now the new way that Minecraft is doing it is that it is asking for a method call on top of the settings. So if I take a look, I will have the axe, hoe, we already had seen pickaxe, then we have the shovel and sword, and that's for, let's see, shovel and sword, yes, and then excavator and hammer are mine. So I will still have this one, but instead of doing it this way, I want to be consistent. So what do we need here is sending it the name and two variables here, because that is all we are using it here. Of course, the material, and this is the thing that we want beside the name. Okay, so let's start with this. We say public, that returns R, but here we say register X, and then we ask for a string name, then we ask for a tool, material, then we ask for a float, attack damage, we ask for a float, attack speed, and that should be it. We don't need even the factory. Okay, let's take a look at this. I will copy it, I will come back here, I will paste it, and instead of pickaxe, it's an axe. This is the material, this is the attack damage, sorry, and this is the attack speed, and that's it. Now I will return that. Take note, I'm calling my own overload. Now why do I have an error here? It returns an item directly, and that's correct because we are not instantiating it any other way. So it's an item, and that's X. Now guess what? We copy it, we call it hoe, and this is the name, and all we need to do is change this one to hoe. So copy it again, and this one will be a pickaxe. All we need to do is change this one to pickaxe. Paste, this one will be shovel, and again the only thing that is changing is here to become shovel. Finally the sword, and this one is sword. The other ones here is a register tool that accepts the constructor. We need to handle that one. So after these, we say public. Again, R extends the item. Return R, register tool. Now we have a string name, the tool material. We call it material. Then we have a float as attack damage, a float as attack speed. Then we need something that we don't have. Now you remember we had this function. The function is actually something very unique. If I open it to show you the code, all it is doing is this. It's all it is doing. It is calling the apply as R. Okay? It is calling the apply and it turns R. It has compose, it has, and then identity. The thing that we want is the apply. However, we are not limiting the number of parameters. We want more parameters than one thing. So I have to add my own factory. Let's create a package and let's call it factories or factory. And inside here, I will add a new Java class, but this is an interface and I will call it iTool factory. By the way, this is the naming convention that I have from C#. Interfaces in C# start with I, and I got so used to that. So whenever I see something started with I and I alone, like this, iTool factory, I know that it's interface. So then I will have to accept two params, U and R, and then I will say return the R as the result of apply method. However, here I ask for a tool material, we call it material. We ask for a float as damage and a float as a speed, and then U as settings. So instead of one parameter, we are accepting more parameters. Now I can use the same concept of factory here, but instead of using the factory, now I can use my own factory. So iTool factory of type item.settings, comma, the result, and we call it factory. Finally, we say we want the registry key, so we just do that. Then we say our item equals to factory.apply. Now notice that this apply needs the material, the attack damage, the attack speed, and finally the settings. Now here we don't provide any settings, so I will say new item.settings and finally registry key with the key. At the end, we just return the registered item like so. So that's it. This will handle this condition. We are sending in the name, the material, two values, and then the factory. So both of these will be handled. Of course, we are calling more on top of it. That's okay, because these are methods that I provided on the excavator and hammer class. It doesn't harm anyone. Now, what if I want an overload of this? I'm not using it myself, I think, but what if I want to have a settings here? So I want item.settings as setting and then the factory. So if I want to provide my own settings, of course, the only thing that is changing now is this part. You just send settings and that's it. Remember, I'm not providing any overload that is limiting the stacking of these, but because I'm accepting a setting here now in this overload, it means that I can add the max count on a setting and then sending it directly if I need to. And honestly, I don't think it's very nice to have multiple overloads just to handle very few use cases, like having a stack count on here, a stack count on here, or I don't know, overloads for these with the stack counts. Honestly, access hose, pickaxes, shovels, they shouldn't change. The other thing is when I'm registering an armor. Now, armor registry is changed in 1.21.5. And again, they are using the same approach. So it's not registering the armor like before. What they are doing, let me see if I can find an instance, is basically they are registering a normal item and you call the armor on top of the properties, just like the pickaxe and axe and everything else. So I will copy one of these, I will paste it, and instead of registering, for example, a sword, I will register an armor, and here I ask for a name, then I ask for an armor material, then I have not the float damage or speed. All I have is equipment type, and I call it equipment, not type, equipment. And here I should be able to return a new armor with material and the type, so equipment and the item. This will solve this one. Amethyst is the material and then helmet, just like leggings, and the same thing will work. I will provide one more overload for this, although I don't think I will ever use it. However, I will add an item.settings here for whatever reason. Who knows? It may become handy sometime, and I will use that settings here. Now, the last two things that I have are for food, actually. Let's see. let's copy this one because we are going to register a snack food with a name, but this part will be changed. So we want an int stack count, an int nutrition, a float called saturation. Okay, let's see how can we change this. We can send the stack count, and then one of the overloads is asking for settings. Now we say new item.settings, and here we send in the food command with new food component, but before the parentheses we say .builder. We call the builder on it. Inside, after the builder, we say dot nutrition. With the nutrition we sent in, dot saturation modifier with the saturation we sent in, dot, we had something called snack, but we don't have it now. I think it's always edible now. And then dot build. Basically, we are finishing it, and that's it. So we are using our own overload to send in a new settings, and because the overload is setting the stack count, we don't need to deal with the stack count in our own setting. Now, I will copy this thing, I will paste it here, and instead of a snack, I will make it register food. Now, the only thing that is changing is this section, always edible. Bye-bye to that, and that's our food being registered. And believe it or not, this is the end for our item register class. Now, I will stop the video here. I will come back in the next video because if I want to write the whole register system in one go, it will take more than 1 hour, and I don't like very long videos. In the next video, we will come back and talk about blocks. Now, keep in mind, we are done everything we need so that our mod items will work. If you like these videos, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on that bell so that when I publish a new video, you will get informed. Have fun, everyone. Bye.